The night I found the murder weapon on my porch, weeks after the sheriff claimed it was already locked in evidence, I realized someone wasn't just framing me for murder. They were watching me, studying me, and getting ready to strike again. I knew something was wrong the moment I opened my eyes. I wasn't supposed to hear anything at that hour. My street, Alder Creek Road, usually slept like a sedated patient. Quiet, heavy, dreamless, but that night, beneath the hum of my old fridge and the distant bark of Mr. Hensley's dog, there was a sound I couldn't place, a faint metallic clatter, hesitant, nervous almost. It came from my backyard. For a full minute I just lay there on my small sofa, still dressed, still exhausted, still wondering how my life had turned into a constant rehearsal for panic. My name is Claire Harlow, 30, 4, school librarian, and the kind of woman people describe as kind until they need a better word. Alder Creek is a small town in Northern Virginia, population 3,000 on paper, about 900 in reality. Sort of place where secrets last longer than marriages, and 3 weeks ago, someone killed my neighbor and blamed me for it. Well, no one said the words out loud, not yet, but the looks, the whispers, the way the sheriff's deputies had searched my home with the politeness reserved for criminals who haven't confessed yet. I wasn't stupid.
Yet this feeling that someone was watching, studying, waiting, intensified as I lay frozen on the couch. The tension thick as fog. What was I truly up against? I had turned the pages of books filled with unfathomable mysteries and intricate plots, but this was my life unraveling. The realization sank like a stone. Someone was orchestrating an elaborate play, and I was merely a pawn shackled to the board.
My hands trembled as I stepped outside, breath fogging in the cold. Who's there? My voice cracked in the middle. A shadow moved behind my shed. I
rose cautiously, letting adrenaline course through me, knowing that the moment of truth awaited in the shadows.
Small cardboard box. I didn't see who dropped it. I didn't see anything at all except that box sitting like a threat. When I lifted it with shaking fingers, I felt the weight of what was inside, something solid, metallic. I carried it under the porch light and opened it, and the world tilted. Inside, wrapped in a folded plastic bag, was a knife. Not just any knife. It was the murder weapon. I'd seen pictures of it in the sheriff's incident file when they'd questioned me. The distinct teak handle, the narrow blade, the tiny rust spot near the hilt. But this made no sense, because according to the sheriff, the knife had already been found 3 weeks ago, buried behind my garage, but here it was again. Maybe, my breath stuttered, maybe the first one had been planted, or maybe this one had. Either way, the evidence that shouldn't exist was now sitting in my hands, freezing my blood. I stumbled back inside, locked the door, locked it, then I leaned against it, shaking. Why are you doing this? I whispered to no one. Something rustled outside again. I killed the lights. Silence swallowed the yard. I peeked through the blinds. No sign of anyone. Just shadows. Just darkness. Just me, alone with a murder weapon that had no right to exist. And that was the first moment I understood. Something terrible. Whoever framed me wasn't just covering their tracks. They were playing with me, and they weren't finished. I didn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with the knife in front of me, wrapped in that plastic, the box beside it like a taunt. The old clock on the wall ticked loud enough to chew through my thoughts. I kept replaying the same question in my mind. Why give me the evidence? Why expose themselves, unless the person wasn't exposing themselves at all? Unless they were exposing me at 6:12 a.m. Someone knocked on my front door, not a polite knock. A slow, heavy thud. I froze. A second thud. Then a third. Claire, you awake? I exhaled so hard it hurt. It was Sheriff Billy Maddox. Of all the people I didn't want on my porch, while an extra murder weapon sat on my table, he was at the top of the list. I shoved the box into a cupboard, slammed it shut, and stepped to the door. My hands shook so badly I had to grip the doorknob to hide it. When I opened it, the sheriff stood there tall, tired, eyes red like he'd been up all night. He was only 40, but carried himself like someone who'd lived 2 lifetimes. Morning, he said, though it didn't sound like a greeting. What's wrong? I asked. He gave me a long look, the kind that tried to flip through the pages of your soul. We found something, he said. My throat went dry, found. What? It's better if I show you. He stepped aside, letting me see the patrol car parked at the curb. A young deputy sat inside. The trunk was open. A body bag lay inside it. My chest tightened. Who is it? We don't know yet. Someone found it dumped beside the river at dawn. He paused. The victim was holding something. It has your name on it. A buzzing filled my ears. My name? Yeah. Looks like a slip of paper. Wrapped in their hand. Why would they have my name? I was hoping you could tell me. His gaze was heavy, too heavy, and suddenly I understood. He didn't come here to warn me. He came here to see how I reacted. Claire, you're going to need to come with me, he said quietly. For what? To answer some questions. My pulse hammered. Am I under arrest? No. Not yet, and not yet. Those two words sliced deeper than the knife ever could. I swallowed hard and grabbed my coat. The morning air smelled of wet earth and pine when I stepped outside. Sheriff Maddox walked beside me, his boots crunching on gravel. As we neared the patrol car, a tightness crawled up my spine. Sheriff, I whispered, yeah. The person in that bag, how were they killed? The sheriff didn't answer at first. Then he sighed. Same way as your neighbor, he said. Same weapon pattern. Same blade width. I fought to keep my face still. And you want to tell me why another victim is holding your name? My mouth went dry because someone wants me to go down for all of this. Because someone is watching me unravel one careful piece at a time. Because someone is building a story where I'm the villain. But I only said, I don't know. He studied me, searching for cracks. And then, Sheriff, the young deputy called. You need to see this. We turned. The deputy had found something wedged under the body bag. I stepped closer. It was a photograph. Sheriff Maddox lifted it carefully by the edges, squinted. Then his eyes went wide. Claire, he said, voice hollow, you need to look at this. He handed it to me. My vision wavered. Photograph showed me standing in my backyard last night, taken from behind my shed, a perfect view of me picking up the cardboard box, meaning someone had been watching me very close, very quietly, and they weren't afraid of being caught. They wanted the sheriff to see this. They wanted him to think I was hiding something, and they were right, just not for the reason they thought. My hands trembled as I stared at the picture. The sheriff's voice cut through my panic. Claire, what exactly were you doing last night? I couldn't breathe because I knew the truth now. The moment I'd opened that box, I'd stepped into a trap I couldn't escape. Sheriff Maddox didn't take me to the station, not right away. Instead, he drove us to the river, the place where they'd found the second body, the body that held my name. His silence was suffocating. Every bump in the road rattled through me. The photograph of me picking up the box burned inside my pocket like a confession I hadn't made. When we arrived, yellow tape fluttered in the wind. Deputies combed the area, some searching the weeds, others photographing tire tracks. Sheriff Maddox pointed toward a stretch of tall grass by the water's edge. That's where they found the victim. Who is it? I whispered. He shook his head, still running prints. But his jaw tightened. But we found your fingerprints on their jacket. My heart plunged. That's impossible. I said, I've never. Claire, he wasn't accusing me loudly. He was accusing me quietly, which was worse. I forced myself to walk closer to the grass, desperate for something, anything, that could make sense of this. And that was when I noticed a flash of silver near the mud. Wait, I said, moving toward it. A deputy tried to stop me, but the sheriff raised a hand. Let her look. I crouched and picked up the object carefully. A camera lens cap, fresh mud, not washed by the river. Someone had been here last night. Sheriff, I whispered, voice unsteady. This wasn't dropped by accident. He frowned, meaning someone knew you'd bring me here. They want us to find this. They want us chasing the wrong things. They're controlling the narrative. And who do you think they are? Claire. I hesitated because I had a guess, a terrible guess. For 3 weeks, someone had been inserting themselves into my life in quiet ways. Someone who always seemed nearby. Someone who knew when I was alone. Someone trusted in town. someone who blended into the background so perfectly no one even looked at them twice. A voice cut through my thoughts. Sheriff Maddox. It was Deputy Ryan Keller jogging toward us. His face was pale. We confirmed the ID on the victim. The sheriff tensed. Who? Ryan swallowed. It's Jacob Turner. My stomach dropped. Jacob Turner, 22, maintenance worker at the town library. Quiet, shy, always helpful. I knew him. I'd worked with him every week. Sheriff Maddox's gaze sharpened. Claire, what was your relationship with Jacob? He fixed the AC, replaced light bulbs. That's it. Why? Why would he have my name? Deputy Keller shifted uncomfortably. Sheriff, there's more. He handed Maddox a sealed evidence bag. Inside was a USB drive. It was in Jacob's pocket. Keller said, labeled Play Me. The sheriff stared at me before unsealing the bag. What am I about to see, Claire? I don't know, I whispered, but deep down, I did. Someone wanted me to break. Someone wanted the sheriff to see me as a monster. Someone who knew both of us well enough to orchestrate every detail. Sheriff Maddox plugged the USB into his cruiser's laptop. The deputies gathered around. A video loaded, grainy, nighttime footage. A camera pointed at a familiar yard, my yard. The timestamp, 3 weeks ago, the night my neighbor, Mrs. Callahan, was murdered. The camera zoomed in on a figure creeping near her porch. A woman, my height, my build, my jacket. Sheriff Maddox stiffened. The woman lifted a knife, the same teak-handled knife. She approached Mrs. Callahan's back door, then the video glitched, jumped, skipped, and suddenly the woman turned her head slightly, just enough for the camera to catch a blurry, partial face. Mine, the deputies murmured under their breath. No, I whispered, that's not me, that can't be me. The sheriff watched the screen like he was watching his own fears confirmed. Claire, someone recorded you, someone pretending to be me. I cried, look at the timestamp. I was at the school board meeting that night, you saw me there. Deputy Keller checked his notebook. She's right, Sheriff, she spoke at the podium. We have witnesses. Sheriff Maddox's face hardened. So either this is doctored, or someone dressed like me. I said, someone who had access to my jacket, my routines, my home. My voice cracked. Someone who wanted to become me. A long, cold silence fell, and then a memory slammed into me. Jacob, quiet, polite Jacob, too quiet, too attentive, how he lingered around the library even after his shift, how he always noticed what I wore, where I left my things, how he once said, people don't appreciate you in this town the way I do. But Jacob was dead, so if Jacob wasn't the one framing me, then who killed him? I felt the answer forming like a bruise under my ribs. Sheriff, I whispered, Jacob didn't frame me. He found something that put him in danger. From who? From the person who had been planting evidence, stalking me, manipulating the investigation, from someone inside our circle, someone we trusted, someone who Sheriff Maddox's voice broke my spiral. Claire, where are you going? I hadn't realized I'd taken a step backward. My mind raced. Who had access to the crime scene files? Who had access to my statements? Who had access to the knife? To the lab? To evidence? Who had been the first on every scene? Mrs. Callahan's death, Jacob's body, the box at my house who lived only 3 blocks from me, who patrolled the area last night. A cold shiver crawled down my spine. I turned slowly toward Deputy Ryan Keller. His face was blank, emotionless, too still. Keller, the sheriff asked, what is it? Ryan Keller's hand drifted toward his holster. My breath caught. The sheriff noticed a second too late. Keller, he said sharply, don't. Ryan Keller moved. Fast. He unclipped his holster, drew his weapon, and grabbed me by the collar, yanking me back with a force that knocked the air from my lungs. Deputies shouted, guns drawn, chaos exploding in seconds. Keller pressed the barrel to my temple. I told you she'd figure it out. He sneered. My blood turned to ice. Sheriff Maddox steadied his stance. Ryan, put the gun down. That's an order. Keller laughed. A brittle, unhinged laugh. You never saw it, Sheriff, all these years. You never saw how she treated me, how she ignored me, how she walked around town like she was better than everyone. I barely knew you. I whispered. Exactly. He snarled. I was invisible, but Jacob noticed me. He figured out what I was doing. what you were doing." I choked. He leaned closer, eyes wild. "I was fixing things, cleaning up this town, removing the people who made your life miserable. Mrs. Callahan always shouting at you, Jacob getting in the way. I did it for you, Claire. My stomach turned, you murdered them. I whispered and framed me, you deserved better." He said simply, every nerve in my body screamed. Sheriff Maddox edged closer. "Keller, listen to me. This isn't what Claire wants. Let her go. We can get you help." Keller pressed the gun harder against my temple. "No, she's mine. And no one gets between us again." I shut my eyes. A single shot cracked the air. My body jolted, but I wasn't the one who fell. Keller's grip loosened. His gun dropped. He collapsed onto the grass, a red bloom spreading across his shoulder. Sheriff Maddox lowered his weapon. "You move again." Ryan and I finished the job. Deputies swarmed him. Keller screamed, fought, tried to reach me, but they pinned him down. I fell to my knees, shaking, struggling to breathe. Sheriff Maddox rushed over and grabbed my shoulders. "Claire. Claire, hey, look at me. Are you hurt?" I shook my head, tears blurring everything. He did all of it. He was in my yard. He planted the knife. "He killed Jacob. He's not going to hurt you again." The sheriff said softly, "It's over." But it wasn't over, not really, because when they lifted Keller from the ground, still screaming, still obsessed, still calling my name like a prayer, I knew this trauma would live in the quiet parts of me forever. And yet, for the first time in weeks, I could breathe. Justice was real. The truth had survived. I had survived. As the deputies dragged Keller away in handcuffs, Sheriff Maddox offered me his hand. "Let's get you home," he said. And for the first time in a long time, Alder Creek felt like a place where I could live again, where I wasn't a suspect, where I wasn't alone, where the evidence that shouldn't exist finally led to the killer no one saw coming. Please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.